Okay, this is K2 Chroma, guys, from YouTube. We're starting another Philosopher Stonecast. This is our third episode. We finally got some things going here, and I'm going to introduce some people here. Of course, the Darkness is here again, and we have a new guest, Tom, from Facebook. So, for our topic for this podcast, it's well, first of all, it's a philosopher's podcast, and we talk about different topics, well, anything and everything, ranging from farts to all the way to like real serious universe stuff. But first, I just want to make a quick disclaimer saying that this podcast is just meant for entertainment purposes, so. Take everything light of heart because it's not meant to offend you. All right. So the topic for this podcast is death. The reason I chose death for this topic today is because I meant to start this podcast on Halloween, but that didn't work out, of course. So yeah. So after that, we're gonna continue on with the Halloween theme and talk about death and. How it's such a big influence in our lives and makes us change a decision on a whim, pretty much. What do you think, Darkness, about death?
Well, like, in relation to what? To just like everyday life, like how that just plays a part in things.
Like what are your ideas on death? Like what do you think it means? What do you think it happens in your brain?
In my brain, when I imagine myself dying, I imagine that the electrical impulses in my brain stop firing. The signals in my brain as they fire, they get dimmer and dimmer until they cease altogether. My molecules break down and I decompose. Whether I'm being decomposed by just natural decomposition or if there's insects on me, and that's one reason. I actually don't want to be buried in a casket. I want to be cremated, because I don't think that our ancestors had that. I mean, I don't know. The ancient Egyptians did it, so maybe it's subjective. But I just don't want to be rotting in a box, because I believe when you die, there's clinically dead where the heart stops beating for so long and they determine that they can't revive you. But I think you're not truly dead until the brain stops firing altogether and your body starts to decompose. But I think it's natural that we decompose into the soil, and I think cremation should be done for everybody, and that their ashes should be put back in the soil, because it's just a natural part when something dies, just like trees and other animals. That's what dirt is. It's organic matter from billions of other organisms that died and broke down. To me, death is actually a good thing, because there is no cycle without things dying if nothing ever ends. So it doesn't really scare me.
Yeah, I understand. Whenever I think about death, it's definitely part of something that happens because we all die. But I know there's different forms of death and the clinical way of death, and I know sometimes there's chemicals that release right after you basically die, and supposedly that's why people believe in afterlife, is because you see things while you're dying. Also, that kind of makes me wonder, like, what happens if your brain just gets destroyed when you die? Like, is it just black, or do you still see those things or feel some of the things people say they feel on when they supposedly die?
A lot of those visions, I think, can be directly attributed to just a lack of oxygen to the brain. Because if you cut off the heart pumping, you're going to black out. That's why, even though someone will have a heart attack, they can be resuscitated with defibrillators, and the heart can be jump started basically and start pumping. And once oxygen comes into the brain, if it's quick enough, they won't go into a coma and they can be revived. But say
Yeah.
like you're just standing on top of a bunch of dynamite and you just get obliterated into lots of bits. I think it just accelerates the process. I mean, of course, if your head is just disintegrated, then there's not going to be any brain matter to fire anymore. There's not going to be any electrical impulses firing in the brain because there won't be like a whole brain.
Well,
Yeah.
I got a little light on the whole situation with near-death experience. I was about 15 years old. I had to be resuscitated for poisoning. It was an experience, but I don't think it was what everyone claims they see and experience when they have a near-death experience. It was much more akin to a true blackout. I guess that probably has to do with the alcohol I consumed, but it was more like it's just non-existence, pretty much. Like it was done. I didn't
Yeah.
really think. I didn't float away from my body. I didn't see a tunnel. I didn't see anything.
You want to know what I think death feels like? Being dead.
What's that?
Imagine, okay, imagine before you were born.
Peace.
Yeah, there's just nothing there, right? And after you die, it's going to be the same thing. Reality as you perceive it through through your brain and out of your eyes, that your reality ceases, and it doesn't hurt. You just simply, you personally stop being a part of reality. It's not a bad thing to be afraid of. Say that every religion was wrong and there's no afterlife or anything. That's not scary at all. There's nothing painful about that. It's just a natural thing, and we're all gonna you pretty much just go to sleep forever. There's nothing scary about that. I mean, yeah, you shouldn't be reckless and kill yourself because you might hurt yourself or somebody else or whatever. But I don't think death is a scary thing. How you die can suck. I mean, I guess that's where you want to be careful. Nobody wants to die falling out of an airplane or something.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, and also like now, especially with all this medical advances, there's so many different ways to keep you from dying too. Like I saw a video today about there's a way that they bring people back from the dead, pretty much to people who lost oxygen to their brain and were considered clinically dead. They would lower the body temperature like really really low to simulate hypothermia, and then somehow that brings people back to life. Like their heart starts beating again, very slowly at first, and then it brings them back all the way into consciousness. It's really interesting to see like the different ways the the medical advances used to keep you from dying nowadays. Also, there's this machine that pretty much pumps your heart manually until they can take you to the hospital and they keep you alive. Even though you're considered brain dead, your heart's still making blood flow everywhere. And then they resuscitate you. It's crazy, and just to think about how much more into the future that's gonna happen, because people are living a lot longer because we know a lot more about our own bodies, and we're still learning a lot more. So, what else do you think, Tom?
Oh yeah, I don't really think death is something to be scared of. Like it's actually kind of welcome to some people, I believe. Anyway, to me, at some point, I'm not ready for it, but I'm not, scared to die anytime particularly soon either. Like if it happens, it happens. Um, But yeah, with the whole afterlife thing too. If that isn't real, that makes life itself even more precious and give itself more meaning. Since there's no eternity of afterlife after you die, then you really need to, take hold of what you got now.
That is really a really good point because it seems like oh, like religious people are like, well, when I die, I get to go to my special place, and that makes death such a little bit less, I guess, easier to handle, I guess, and that's why a lot of people just turn to religion because they're afraid of dying and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like religion stems from a lot of things that people just didn't know, and mainly death. Yeah, I see that very easily. Um, I was looking for answers, and no one really. We still can't really say what happens when we die. I don't believe anything happens. I believe the way I live on eternally is the energy that was in my body is now energy for something else. And I mean, energy can't be destroyed, so that's the only way.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up energy because I have a hypothesis or
Theory.
about about theory or whatever, an assumption that ghosts is just lingering energy from our brain.
And that's interesting. Like,
Yeah.
imagine the electrical impulses could somehow exist as like you know how static electricity can be generated with nothing but socks and carpet.
Hmm.
What
Yeah.
what if our bioelectric energy could somehow dissipate and just become an ambient wave of you know uh, natural electric current that would flow through all items?
Uh, yeah, something like that. But what I think it's more like it lingers depending on how much energy you're putting out at the time. Um, and there are graphs and stuff that show people with supposed auras or whatever. But I believe it's just your normal body energy. It's usually not a lot. Like it's not enough to power um, an appliance or something like that. But it's definitely there.
So if it's strong enough, your ghost could linger with more of a strong presence.
Yeah,
You think
I
that's
guess
why?
that's
Do you think that's why Super Saiyans are so hard to kill?
yeah, because they just turn into gods and then they just kill everybody.
Like they don't even go to Ghost. You just hit them and like they just throw you through a mountain.
See, I've got a whole different theory on what ghosts could be. I mean, I personally don't. I've never seen anything supernatural, so I can't really comment on whether or not these phenomena are really what they're being explained as or not. But I like to think the multiverse theory has something to do with humanoid ghosts, anyway, and potential through like connecting to other universes that have the same people and the same thing, or they just branched off at a different decision point in time, and they're at a different point in time in that universe. Just kind of connects for a brief second. Someone sees it, and they see it as a ghost.
Hey, you guys want to hear something crazy I found online today when I was looking up stuff?
What's that?
Scientists have developed what they consider evidence that there may be an like alternate or other alternate universes, and also
Yeah, see,
a black hole. They said a black hole has to lead somewhere, right? And they came up with a theory that on the other side of the black hole is an alternate universe where time is actually flowing in reverse compared to ours. Because you notice how a black hole is so immensely powerful that even light can't escape it. Maybe time itself is flowing into black holes, and on the other side of the black hole, there may be time flowing out of it, existing as that timeline for the alternate universe that may very well have a completely different set of, completely different law of physics.
Wow.
Well,
That,
time would tell you,
that's
right?
really interesting.
Time would flow at a completely different rate just near a black hole.
Yeah,
Like, I
that's
mean,
definitely really, really interesting. Like to think about, because it makes a lot of sense. Because like it attracts so much stuff, and some black holes can just suck up so much. I mean, that's what galaxies are, made from, or they orbit around, are black holes.
have a supermassive black hole in the center, but there's also tons of black holes between every star. There could be one floating around near our solar
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to hear you, Tom, because it's like
Yeah, it's
a little
cutting
bit
out a little bit.
lag. Yeah,
I'm sorry. Hold on.
probably need to get some better reception there.
Maybe plug your phone in with a charger.
All right, I think that's pretty good for that topic. We'll come back to it as the podcast goes on, but I'm gonna move into the news now. Most of this is a little bit old. Some of it is new. It's mostly a lot of controversial stuff with race and stuff like that.
Pancakes or waffles? Who wins?
All right. I'm gonna figure out which one to start with here.
If you want to pass it to me, I'll be as non-controversial as I can. It's kind of hard to describe anything sensitive without somebody getting upset, even if you're just trying to be as factual as possible, because
Okay.
some things upset people.
Okay. Let's start with okay. Here's the little story. Well, it's a video. It's about there's been a lot of controversy going on with this cop that slammed a teenage girl in a school, and how people were like, well, you know, he did the wrong thing, and
I saw that
everybody
video.
hates him, and yeah, and he lost his job, and he's pretty much screwed because the entire internet hates him now.
And what was this punk-ass little shit kid doing? A cop doesn't just walk in there and start body slamming kids. I was a kid, and Chris knew me in high school, and he was around me when I did some of the stuff that I did.
Yeah.
He can see a cop coming in there and body slamming my ass out of a desk.
Yeah. But I got this video here. I'm just gonna screen share it, and then it's about this guy talking about the subject, and then I want your opinions on it. Let me get this up here real quick.
I couldn't find the explanation of what led up to the incident. Everything was just so clogged with just backlash from the actual incident happening.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna turn up the volume so you can hear it, but I just want you guys to be quiet. All right?
See.
Okay.
I'm not getting any audio.
Yeah, me.
Check the audio bar on the actual video player. You might need to just slide that bar up sometimes.
All right, I'm gonna try it now.
I'm not getting anything.
He does look kind of angry, though.
Yeah, hold on. I don't know why you're not. Oh, okay. Never mind. I figured it out. 1 second. Okay, here we go.
All right, Dave Champion here. I want to talk to you about what that asshole fucking cop did in South Carolina. That fucking deputy was named Ben Fields. What a fucking piece of shit that asshole is. But you know what's worse? Way worse than Ben Fields? What's way worse is all these fucking Americans who are supporting him. Now, there's a lot of good Americans, don't get me wrong, who are condemning the fuck out of this. But what the fuck is with these assholes who are supporting him? Jesus Christ. You know what the number one thing that fucks up kids are? Fucked up parents. And you know who those fucked up parents are? The ones who are supporting this fucking criminal, violent prick. You know what the kid's nickname for him is in that school? I bet you don't know, do you, motherfucker? It's Officer Slam. How many fucking times do you think he's done this before? But there was no video, so it just got brushed under the fucking rug. He's a fucking thug. Now, where else do we say to somebody, I told him a couple times, and then I fucking slammed his face into the concrete? We do that at fucking prison. You want your fucking schools to be trust your students, your loved ones to be treated like fucking inmates? What fucking morons are these? And what authority did he have to lay his hands on that girl? Not one fucking legal authority. Go look it up in South Carolina law. A resource officer is not a school administrator and has no authority except in pursuance of a criminal act. And saying, no, I'm not going to stand up is not a fucking criminal act. He's a fucking thug. Oh, by the way, he also says he bench presses 600 pounds. I've been in the gym for 30 plus fucking years. If you're bench pressing 600 pounds, you are a fucking steroid junkie. And what do steroids do? Yeah, it makes it virtually fucking impossible for you to control your temper. Now, he has 3 jobs under South Carolina law. He's a law enforcement officer assigned to the campus. He's an advisor to the staff, and he can teach a limited number of classes such as law enforcement, principles, and things like that. That's it. He's not a fucking administrator, and he can't lay his hands on somebody for violating policy. Now, the National Association of School Resource Officers refused to defend him, and they're the preeminent organization for resource officers in the country. NBC has said the sheriff has decided to fire him. And the school district, the school in which he worked, said his conduct was reprehensible and outrageous. So who the fuck are these cocksuckers who want to defend a violent thug beating up kids? Unfucking believable and unfucking American.
Yeah.
I need to fully understand everything that led up to that to take in the response properly, but he was definitely he had a very strong opinion about it, obviously.
You didn't see any of the original videos or anything about the story, or?
Yeah, let me see if I can pull one up.
I saw the video. All the ones I found, it looked like it was on a pretty nice cell phone video. Get out of here, dog.
There's 2 or 3 of them. I've seen 2 of them, and the third one's supposed to give a bit more insight as to what led up to it. I mean, like, I kind of agree. Like, the cop was out of line. Even if the girl was being a bitch or whatever, or being insufferable.
Yeah, that's pretty intense how he reacted.
To use the amount of force he did. And that's why he got fired. He got fired because he didn't use proper protocol for detaining a person. Like, so,
yeah, absolutely.
He obviously can't be a proper cop. Now, did the girl do something that incited it? Probably. She's a teenage girl who doesn't have her parents, from what I understand. So she's probably going through a lot of crap and has a lot of stuff going in her head. So, I mean, I can't really say what's going on in her head, what was going on in his head. But if he's an officer of the law and he's been trained how to deal with people like this, he should have been able to do it in a much less.
Yeah.
You gotta wonder how many police officers are out there that, and it's kind of like there's a certain type of personality type, and steroids can definitely make it worse. If this guy was the kind of gym rat that that one guy said that he heard that the guy was benching 600 pounds, there's Olympic athletes that would be impressed at
I
that.
mean,
That's
if
pretty
he
insane.
was that strong, he could have handled the situation pretty easily. He really didn't have to slam her on the ground. I mean, she could have just grabbed her and put her in, you know, on handcuffs or restrained her.
You seen the video, Chris?
I have it up now. I'm gonna
He,
screen share.
I've seen it. He didn't slam her on the ground. He slammed her and the desk on the ground. He grabbed her, still sitting in the desk, and flipped the whole shebang up and just put it down like a fucking sack of potatoes.
And
Okay.
then he threw her from the desk to the front of the classroom.
Let's watch this video.
Like,
If you guys could be quiet for a second.
It's 10:30 Monday morning, math class at Spring Valley High School. School resource officer Ben Fields is called in to confront a student. Witnesses say she had not been participating in class, had taken out her phone, and refused to leave when the teacher asked. The confrontation escalates while other students watch silently. While she's still sitting at her desk, Fields pulls her to the ground and throws her across the floor.
It wasn't right. He was like flinging her around like a drag dog.
Naya Kenny tells NBC's Craig Melvin she stood up for her classmate and was also arrested and charged with disturbing schools.
I can tell you, I feel like the grown men were scared in there too. I was scared. He's known as Officer Slam. Before, I was in 8th grade hearing about this man.
The cell phone videos lit up social media, trending under the hashtag assault at Spring Valley High.
I just think it's ridiculous how, like, it's not even that necessarily to do that to her when she's just a child sitting in the seat.
Fields is a sheriff's deputy. His boss says the girl tried to punch Fields at least once, but he probably should have responded differently.
When a student refuses to comply, what should a resource officer do?
Well, one of the first things we would like to see happen is that the school help not involve us as a law enforcement officer.
Fields and other school officials are also facing a lawsuit brought by a student 2013 incident, claiming in part that Fields unfairly and recklessly targets African-American students with allegations of gang membership. Fields and the other defendants deny wrongdoing and have supplied evidence. He's also a football coach and has received a Culture of Excellence award at the school last year.
He's a really good officer, and sometimes he can be like pretty mean, but he can also be a really nice officer. He can also help kids out at the school.
And tonight, Deputy Fields is on administrative leave without pay.
I gotta say, no matter what she said or was doing, it just seems like there's no good explanation for the amount of just that sudden burst of force that he used. Say she was sitting there saying, "Fuck you, cop," and was yelling, "Call him a cracker," and "I'm not getting up and kiss my ass. I'm a black person. Fuck you." Or she could have gone all out and tried to say whatever. He went like it just seems like she was probably being a smartass, and he probably snapped because apparently he's not. I can't take his side, even though there's a lot of kids out there that probably need a good ass whooping. To go, you got to take steps. If a kid says they're not getting up, you tell them to get up again. If they act like they're not going to get up, grab her by the arm and try to pull her up and say, "Come on, you're going outside." And then if she gets crazy and like swings at him or tries to hit him, then you restrain her. If you bench 600 pounds and you have to body slam a little girl, that just seems like something he chose to do because he just didn't care. There's no good reason to make a leap like that when it comes to doing your job. No matter what, it doesn't matter if you're a police officer or like working at McDonald's. If you're at McDonald's and someone says, "Hey, he wants extra ketchup," you're gonna put a little extra ketchup. You're not just gonna fucking go and fucking say, "Yeah, ketchup, motherfucker." It seems like that's what he did. He just said, "I'm taking her out of this class," and he just flipped her, and he could have hurt her really bad. If she'd have hit her head on the ground and got a concussion, there's just no amount of smart-ass back talk that could come out of a kid's mouth where I could see that being appropriate.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I got another video here or a story. It's kind of a lot of people bringing up stuff because of this about how all the students they're they're acting like they have no respect for the teacher, and just acting crazy and stuff. And I understand what they're trying to say, but in this case, with this girl, it was completely different. There are a lot of kids that treat their teachers horrible, and the teachers can't do anything about it because they can't touch the kids. They can't, they can't hurt them. They can't really do anything. The most they can do is try to send them to detention or whatever. And
I
even
got
then,
paddled.
and even then, like that doesn't really do anything. They just separate them from the classroom. But I got another thing here. I'm going to put it on the screen share here. It's another video, so I'm going to ask you to be quiet for again real quick.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, he says my fucking phone, bruh. I mean, mommy and daddy bought him a phone. He's just a little kid wanting to be tough in front of his friends. I've had teachers cross the line for me. I actually was in 8th grade, and you know those little zip-up little packets that you keep pencils in and markers and crap that fits inside your folder?
Mm-hmm.
I had one of those that I didn't have it in a folder. I just had it. And my teacher told me to move to another desk, and I was just trying to be a smartass and show off. And she grabbed my little pencil packet and slammed it on another desk and said, told me to move to that desk. And I snapped, and I just went, bitch. I did.
Yeah.
I called her a bitch. And I got suspended for 3 days. But, so trust me, I went through that. Like, you got to be tough. Chemicals in your brain aren't balanced right. But it doesn't, there does need to be, like I say, that if a police officer had walked into the room at that point and body slammed that kid, that would have been a lot different. Some people could have easily gotten hurt. He was crossing the line. If that guy had a run in and like flipped his ass into a desk, I would have been like, that's exactly what should have happened.
Yeah. So, continuing on with this this thing here, the students, they've been lashing out at teachers, and he couldn't really do anything. I mean, and he got him on the ground trying to get the phone from him. There's another one here of the student. Let me see. Is a teacher was assaulted by a student. Can't really. It doesn't really say too much about it, but I can show you the picture here on screen share. There he is. So, I mean, why would what can they do? I mean, the best thing that they can hope for is to have other students try to stop them from acting like this,
Themselves, aren't they?
Huh?
Aren't they allowed to defend themselves once that's starting to happen?
They're probably job scared. They're terrified that they're going to hit a kid.
This teacher, he was a older man. He was in his 60s when he got attacked by one of the students. And there, like I said, it doesn't really say much here. And there's no news on it, so it was just a post I saw on Facebook. But yeah, I mean, I have another video here I want to show. Not that one. This one. And this is just a small video about how kids are just fucking going crazy, and teachers can't do anything about it.
They have no authority.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. They're underpaid, and I just don't understand why teachers don't you ever wondered why you've never heard of a teacher coming to school with a gun and dropping a bunch of kids? That's insane. I mean, it's messed up to joke about, but like I wouldn't be able to be a teacher or a school bus driver. If a kid went crazy like that, I wouldn't be able to just like let them come at me and just like hurt me. It's insane.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna play this video, so just be quiet for a second here.
Everybody, shut up! Shut up!
Ignorant as hell.
No, fuck that! I fuck your ass to shut.
No, wait. No.
What my name is again.
Miss Cox, how do you feel about this situation? How do you feel? How are you feeling about this?
I need you to throw your whatever you're throwing. I need you to throw them away. These are throwing. I need you to throw your beans away. Okay, young lady, I'm gonna have to ask you to have a seat. I have to ask you to have a seat.
You on camera?
You're on Candid.
I'm finna smack ass with a whole bag of M&M's. Trina just said so that. Cut the camera. Cut the camera.
No, okay.
Are you ready now?
Young people, I need
Shut your ass out of here.
Give me the damn
class.
M&M's.
I need you to go to the class. I need you to have a seat. For those of you who are working on your assignment,
Can you help me with my assignment?
Sit down. Sit down in your chair.
Yeah, young man, I need you to
Sit down in your chair.
have a seat. I'll be to have a seat.
Sit your ass down in your chair.
Have a seat. You need security.
Hold on.
Can someone?
Sit down in your chair.
Your security's not out there.
No, just sit down.
Wherever your
Ain't no
security
security
is.
guard. What's
Because
your
you're not.
What's your security for?
This doesn't even seem real.
Have a seat. Have a seat.
Sit down in that seat though, right? Sit down in that seat though, right? Once you sit down in that seat though.
Miss Cox, I got your back, G, on both of them. We not about to take this shit. Get up. No, wait. Get up and come get some.
Oh!
Get up, come on. G, I got your back. People are everything that you and shit. We not about
You get it.
That seems like at first, like I kept thinking that they had to have just been joking around, like it was just going to be some joke video, but like was that detention? That didn't look like a regular classroom. It looked like some after-school collection of misfits, and like America gets so freaked out, like they act so surprised that, I mean, you saw that clearly that was you can bring up parenting when it comes to black culture in America. That's a touchy subject, but some kid goes out and acts crazy, and people freak out when he ends up getting himself shot or something happens to him. Like, you gotta wonder, those kids don't just act like that. Hell, you know what I did that was fucked up in high school? I used to super glue light switches down. I used to super glue shit to my desk. Because I thought it was funny. Super glue a teacher's stapler to her desk. You ever watch her go to grab a stapler that's glued to a desk? That's funny. She don't know it's glued, and then she grabs it, and it's like, what the fuck? And that screwed up. Probably ruined her stapler, and I feel bad because I tormented. There was this poor woman. Her name was Miss Chatham, one of the sweetest teachers I ever had in my life, and if I ever saw her again, I would just give her a big hug and tell her I'm so sorry. But like the worst I ever did was I used to just super glue shit to my desk because I thought it was funny. Because like I'd super glue a pencil to the desk. Next morning you come in, there's a strip of wood on the desk because the janitor had to pry it off with like a screwdriver or something. But those
Yeah.
kids, no kid just does that just joking around. You super glue shit to your desk when you're joking around. That's got to be something that has to do with their parents not taking them seriously. I mean, you want your child, when it grows up and is in the world, to be equipped to deal with people in a manner that would bring them respect and a good life. To turn a child like that loose into the world and have that kind of behavior doesn't just happen overnight. That's not puberty. That's a long time coming, and that's really scary because that's just what you saw on film. There's a million other kids out there worse than that.
Yeah. And it's kind of hard to figure out what to go from there because you can't control people like you know how they used to do it because it's supposedly wrong nowadays, and if you do try, then you get so much hate from everyone, and you can't even do anything, without getting, ridiculed and scolded at. So it's a really difficult situation to handle, especially nowadays. Which I think something does need to happen because it's just there's no it's just going to make things worse for everybody, especially here.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
We should next time that you're in town, we should go on a little road trip up to East Paulding and go and give Miss Chatham a big old hug. Ask her if
I
she
don't even know if
remembers
she's
us.
still there.
I don't know. I just feel bad. Like there was guys like Mr. Myrick. Remember Mr. Myrick?
I think so.
He used to laugh like Kermit the Frog. Man, I got in trouble a lot. Got kicked out of the Boy Scouts when I was a kid.
I never got in trouble.
I was in the Boy Scouts, and we were at a big Boy Scout meet. Like we had to build like a fort or something, and like this kid, he happened to be one of the instructor's sons, walks up to me and shoves me because we were arguing, and I just went right in the stomach and dropped him. I didn't think about it. I just kind of did it out of a reflex. I don't feel good about it, but I don't know. Kids do crazy stuff, and it's not until you become older and become an adult that you really understand them. I think some parents, they had bad parents, and it's just several generations of bad lifestyles being passed down is what causes children to behave the way they do now.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going here. There's another video I want to show you guys.
Are you telling me to kayate, sir?
Yeah.
Say it.
Definitely.
Call me a puta.
Puta?
Tell me I've been bad.
Okay, this one's a little bit more bringing it back to the death subject.
Sure.
This teen was killed by a cop over a marijuana. I guess he was trying to smoke somewhere behind some place, and the cop came and tried to arrest him, I guess, and then he shot him in the head. And a lot of people are wondering, like, was the cop right or what? But of course, the cop isn't going to get in trouble for it, for killing somebody so young.
Is this footage of him shooting him, or what is this?
Yes.
Oh, let's do it.
All right, I'm about to play it.
There was a gun cop. He was wrong.
Oh, well, see, that's not what it says over marijuana. I've seen a lot of videos where a person will try to drive away or try to drive through a cop, and if the cop fears for a second that he's going to get hit by the car, he has the right to shoot.
The video.
He tried to hit me. Stop him! He's shot! He's on the way to get shot. Five.
In that situation,
Five.
I think that the cop made a split-second decision, but I don't think he made the right call. If you're in front of the car and like the car's coming right at you, you may have no choice. But he had more than ample time to just step out of the way. It wasn't that he was in a situation where he had to fire. He could have gotten out of the way. And I think that's another instance of just a stupid kid being stupid and a cop choosing to take make an extreme choice and shoot him instead of just getting out of the way. I mean, it's not that he's a police officer. He's trained to do the basic things. Like what do? You immediately get the license plate. He's a teenager. Where's he going to go?
Yeah.
You're going to catch him at his parents' house an hour from now. But you saw when he fired, he was actually on the side of the vehicle. He wasn't in the front of it. So that's definitely another example of police officers making choices that they have no reason to make.
Yeah.
Well, about that, I got something.
It's all right. Yeah, I mean, like, and also a lot of cops have been getting a bad rep. Not all cops are out to kill, people, but there are basically the way they do things, and it's hard to explain. Say there's a police officer and he has somewhat of a temper problem, but he's out there every day risking his life and trying to make things right for everybody, but he always gets shit from everybody and he gets angry about it, and then he always has to deal with these people that try to run away, and then they try to just cause more problems than he thinks it should be, like a traffic stop. If he comes up and he stops somebody and the traffic stop doesn't go the way he plans it to, then he gets really mad and just takes it to the extreme, and just starts firing his weapon. And most of the times he can't get in trouble because the court will side with the police officer because they're supposedly a better source to witness, but then there are a lot of police officers that just want to do their job, and they're just like us, and they're getting paid to do a job, and they're just trying to do what they can to help people, and then cops that give them a bad name like that, now all these good people are getting hate for something that somebody that's truly a bitch, did. And that's not their fault, and they get such a bad rap because of it.
Absolutely.
What are they doing? What are those good cops doing to stop these bad cops when they see this shit happen, though?
That's another thing. Also, there's a thing going on where the cops that they don't really tell on each other because the other cops would ruin their lives, basically blackmail them or something like that.
Or
they have to
kill them.
deal. They have to deal with that stuff because if once it's kind of like a club, and if you tell on somebody, then the other half of the police force is gonna be like, well, fuck you, and they're just gonna make his life hard on whenever he's trying to do his job. And it's weird because it's kind of like in high school. There's different cliques and stuff too.
Yeah, like if you got how like in the beginning of every grade, you go from 6th grade to 7th grade. At the beginning of the year, what happens? The principal calls everybody into the gym, and they have a big-ass talk with the entire school at the beginning of every new year, right? And they always give that speech about, do the right thing, do this and do that. But nobody really understands the mental pressure and confusion that even, you try to explain to your parents and it's like they've forgotten what it felt like. And I'm not saying it's right for children to behave the way they do. I'm saying that you have to understand that children cannot control that. When their bodies and minds and everything are growing, I mean, shit. I hit 6 feet in 8th grade. I was 6 foot tall. And I only grew another
Fuck,
4.
I'm still not 6 feet.
Yeah, I was wearing a size 13 in 6th grade. But aside from my failed basketball career, I only grew like 4 inches in high school, but like my mental stages I went through, I mean, I've got a lot of scars. The majority of the scars I've gotten, I got within like 2 years in high school. Just because of your mental state, when your body, you might not be growing and getting taller, but the way your body regulates its chemistry changes so much during like a 5-year span as your body's growing and developing than it will for the rest of your life. And society forgets about that. If you're trying to arrest like a 15-year-old who clearly, is trying to make a point that he's a tough guy, you don't handle that the same way as you do a full-grown man who clearly has a fucked up sense of what he thinks is right and is trying to act like a tough guy. You see a 30-year-old who's dressed like a thug, you treat him different than a 15-year-old dressed like a thug. The 30-year-old, you tell him to get on the ground. If he doesn't, you tase the motherfucker, right? Because clearly that's just kind of how it goes. If your cop points a taser at you and says, get on the ground, you don't want to pee on yourself, so you get on the ground. If you're a 15-year-old and a cop draws on you and says stop, you stop. I'm not trying to defend any of those extreme decisions that police officers make, but a lot of them are in situations where they've had certain training simulations drilled into their heads so many times. Some of them make those decisions and probably don't realize what they've done until after it's over. And that's the sad part, is because the cop was acting on reflex. That kid was just acting on just pure a pure hormone or estrogen, or just a chemical induced state of chaos in their mind, because you're a kid. I mean, you know how things are. We were all there. We're all grown-ups now, but we all know what that felt like. We all can think of a time. When we think back to it, we think, wow, if I could go back and meet me when I was like 15, I'd be like, you're a little fucking psycho. You know what I mean? I think that's why these things keep happening with people that are very young, doing stupid things and losing their lives, going to jail, is because society has forgotten how big of a role those changes play in the mind of an adolescent female or a male, because it's not the same as adults. It's just not. If a 15-year-old walks up to a cop and punches him in the face, the cop might handle that by shooting him. But the kid's not doing that because he's hell-bent on causing destruction and just starting a fight. He's doing it because he's a stupid kid. I think there needs to be some kind of workaround for that. The police department needs to develop new training strategies based on, like adults, and then there's young people. Because if you're trying to, that makes sense, right? I know I'm dragging it out too far. I'll shut up now. But I'm trying to make a good point.
Yeah. What do you think, Thomas?
I kind of agree. I do think our police need to be trained differently than they are. I think there has to be some fundamental issue with their training, since we are seeing so many reports of police doing things that just shouldn't be happening. A death penalty should never be the result of someone resisting arrest. Let the guy go. You don't need to shoot him if he's going. Yeah, if he's fighting you, the gun shouldn't be your first option. Plenty of other countries can take down armed people that are drug crazed and doing all kinds of crazy, superhuman, almost kind of shit without guns. I mean, sure, they can still use the guns if absolutely necessary. I don't think a cop should use it unless there's another gun out there. If he has a gun pointed at him, yeah, then he has every right to shoot. But if not, please, use your freaking baton. Use your fists. They're trained how to fight. They should know.
Right. It's crazy, and also, like, why? I mean, another thing I don't understand is why cops carry guns. I mean, I mean, it's 2015. They could invent something that looks like a gun and works like a gun, but is not lethal.
Well, imagine the perfect cop who follows the rules and takes everything real serious. Hey, Chris, you remember Officer Fitzgerald, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was a good cop. You know this guy. He actually, and I guess I don't want to say too much because I just dropped his name, but he was very lenient. He would catch kids doing stupid stuff. Like kids, like little, like, here's something I can say. Like, a young kid would be caught smoking. He'd take their cigarettes away and just, like, cuss them out and make them feel stupid and walk them back to the school. And he'd take them to the principal or whatever, but wouldn't be like a crazy person about it. He would just be trying to teach them a good lesson that when they get older they'll understand. You get some cops that'll see a kid smoking cigarettes and just get physical. He won't. The whole point of a cop, like, they forget about, like, what the society needs from them is when we think of cops, we think serve and protect. We look to cops. I want to respect cops. I want to look at them as someone that I can idolize because, they're supposed to uphold what society should be. They're supposed to be that guiding force that keeps us from descending into chaos.
Yeah, and also you don't want to be the one fearing cops, just because they're around. Like, there's a lot of times where people are just afraid when cops are around because they feel like they could get hurt just because, they're there.
Yep.
You ever think, like when I look at cops, I can't help but just look at that belt, and I think of Batman's utility belt. And I know everybody does. How often does Batman go for the Batarang, huh?
Every time.
Every time?
Yeah,
I'm not
right?
talking comic books. I'm talking like in the movies.
Never.
He gets up there and he's like, I'm Batman. You're evil. You're going to jail. And they're like, no. And he's like, no, we're going to fight. And then he does karate. Right? If they try to run, he doesn't just whack him in the back of the head with a batarang. He takes the bat boa and he ties their legs up where they trip and fall. Batman, he doesn't kill him unless he has to. I'm getting.
So what you're saying is every police force should have one Batman.
Yeah, we need vigilantes, man. That's what we need.
I think the point I'm trying to make is when you said guns, I feel like you were moving towards saying that you think police officers shouldn't have guns.
Not necessarily. Maybe, like, have most of the patrols not have guns, but have something that works like guns. Something, future weapons, but there should still be some.
They've
officers.
got that's what tasers are for. It's a non-lethal gun.
There should be.
Well,
there should be some officers with guns, but not every single officer. Maybe like the sheriff or
I wholeheartedly believe that every officer should have an aspeton, a stun gun. He should have a loaded firearm, pepper spray, anything he needs to carry out his duties. But he should be properly trained on the stages that you would go through in a confrontation. Like, say, like going back to an officer handling a situation. You're at a traffic stop. He needs to be able to properly analyze the situation. If somebody goes to take off, even if his foot gets run over, right? That is not a reason to take a life. Now, chase him down, pit the car into a ditch. If it flips and he gets all fucked up and has to get stitched up in the hospital, it's his fault. But unless, and I mean, you're a police officer. They go through a lot of athletic stuff. If you can't sidestep, there's no car that takes off fast enough that, like, somebody who's less than 300 pounds can't just be like, oh, there's a car coming, I'm going to get out the fucking way.
Not something that somebody's getting pulled over on a weed charge in anyway.
Yeah. Like, he could have got out of the way of that car, and he could have gotten his cruiser, which was right behind him, and just chased him. But instead, he fired right through the driver's side window. That's a clear case of a cop misusing his power.
Mm-hmm.
Guns for police officers are good, because say there's a situation where somebody has a firearm. There's been plenty of instances where someone has been confronted by a cop and panicked and jumped out with a gun and drew on the officer. That's different. They should have firearms, because if they lose their lives unfairly, it's just as bad.
Yeah. See, I totally agree. They do need a firearm, but the training need to be trained to rely on other methods more than the firearm. The firearm is not the first choice, in my opinion, unless other firearms are present. That's the only time it's the go-to weapon, in my opinion. If someone comes at you with a knife, then you frickin' disarm them or frickin' hit them with something else. Stun them. Yeah, use a taser. Like, people can disarm people with guns, without guns. Train them to do that, but still give them their sidearm. Like, if you can disarm someone who has a pistol pointed at you and you don't, you could train every cop in America how to do that.
And that's something that everything has to change, because, you know, they're also getting, like, a lot of police departments are getting, like, tanks and stuff and, like, grenades and assault rifles.
I'm fucking against that. I am wholeheartedly against that. Is militarization of our police, and that is the beginning of the police state, which, I mean, we are kind of in a police state mindset already. Everyone who sympathizes with the cops who have been in the limelight with these shootings and killings that have been going on have always been, well, if you don't resist arrest, then it won't happen. Well, I mean, if the only charge you're getting is resisting arrest, that means the cop broke the law in the first place by arresting you with no reason. So, and you're constitutionally allowed to resist at that point, because there is nothing the cop is doing that is legal at that point. And I kind of forgot where I was going now. I'm fucking high.
There needs to be regulations in place. Here's a really important thing that I just remembered to bring up. Police officers, like, because we have the right. We have rights, right? We can consent to a search. We can refuse a search. I don't have any drugs on me, right? Mm-hmm. But so I should have no problem. And Chris was with me that one fateful night, like 2 a.m, coming back from a show. And I knew it was only going to go one way, so I just said, fuck it. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen anyway. And, you know, we got our car searched, and of course I had nothing on me because, I mean, I'm not going to do that. But I got breathalyzed, I searched the car and everything. But what it is the dogs. There needs to be some sort of regulatory policy in place that can stop them from circumventing your rights. Because if you don't have drugs, you should be able to say, no, you can't search my vehicle, because you don't want them going through your stuff. You want to get done and go where you're going. So they go around with the dog doesn't bark, and you go. But they'll use the dog and say he gave them a signal, and they can go through your stuff. And if you don't like it, they handcuff you, they lay you on the ground. That's wrong. And there's a fact I wanted to bring up. I'm not going to drop his name, but it's a guy we went to high school with, and my mom is good friends with his mom, and she told me he got a DUI. They pulled him over, breathalyzed him. He wasn't over the legal limit or anything. They pulled him over, breathalyzed him, he was legally sober. But
How old was he when it happened?
He's my age. It was like a year or two ago. I'm 27, so he's like 25.
Okay, so then zero tolerance wasn't even a factor.
No, it was like .08. Since the last time I heard was the legal limit for intoxication on a breathalyzer.
Yeah, I think it varies state to state, but that's the standard in America. Yeah.
Well, it was in Georgia, so it was .08
Okay.
in Georgia.
Yep.
They pulled him over, and he didn't blow a .08. He was legally sober, but they just said he was driving recklessly, and he has a DUI on his record now because the cops basically breathalyzed him and didn't want to look stupid, so they got him anyway. The cops can use their word and say, well, you were driving recklessly. Do you know if a cop pulls you over and you say, and he says you were swerving, and you say something like,
bitch,
I took. If you tell a cop that you took NyQuil because of the chemicals in NyQuil, one of the symptoms is drowsiness. If you tell a cop that you took NyQuil, and because of the
it's a DWAI.
Yeah, you can actually get a DUI or a DWAI.
It's a New York thing. It might be the same down here. I don't know. It's driving while ability impaired. It's usually for a broad spectrum other than alcohol, pharmaceutical drugs and stuff like that. Even actually driving tired can get you a DWAI up in New York.
I haven't heard of DWAI. I just heard DWI.
Well, that DWI is driving while intoxicated. AI is ability impaired. So you could just be tired. You could be on Vicodin. You could be. It's just a broad spectrum thing, and it affects you about the same way as a DUI.
I guess that's the label that they would give you then. But they can actually take you in. It's the same thing. You'll spend all this money paying money to the state, paying for probation, paying for AI or AA classes. I had a friend who he got busted with weed in his car. As a result, the court sentenced him to take AA classes as part of his court punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got busted in Forsyth County with $2,000, and they let me go. And I shook their hands and like, thank you guys. You won't regret it.
Yeah. I've never been so lucky.
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, my buddy who I was with, his roommate pulled over just like a couple weeks prior in Forsyth County, and he just recently got off his probation for it.
I don't smoke weed. I just want to say that. I've had my fun.
I do.
I can't say that I would or wouldn't. I just know that in the line of work that I've chosen now, I can't do it. What? There's my American brand of self-medication. PBR.
Yeah, I hardly ever drink anymore. I drank on Halloween, but I only had 4 beers.
All right, Chris. Yeah. I'm gonna let you take us into the future. Where are we going?
All right.
Your new name. Oh shit, dude. Sky Captain Chris.
I guess.
Yes, Commander.
Continuing on with these police stories, let me. Do you want to read this story, Tyler?
Absolutely.
Since you're a pretty good reader here, I'm gonna screen share it.
Yes, Chris didn't mention he's Mexican. No habla inglés.
I work with a fair amount of Mexicans.
I love Mexicans.
All right, let's. If you want, go ahead and read this.
Man's Facebook post about traffic stop goes viral. Tucson, Arizona, a man's Facebook post about a recent traffic stop is going viral. Stephen Hildreth Jr. says he was pulled over by the Tucson Police Department for a broken headlight. When the officer asked if he had any weapons, he told him he is a concealed carry permit. Well, typo. He has a concealed carry permit is what they meant to say, and had a gun on his right hip. Because his wallet was in his back right pocket, the officer needed to disarm him to check his ID. Hildreth wrote about his experience with the officer and posted it to his Facebook page. I've
And this
already,
is
I've already got thoughts, but I'm going to read this.
Oh, I actually read his Facebook post.
yeah.
So, I'm driving to my office to turn in my weekly paperwork. A headlight is out. I see a Tuscan Police Department squad vehicle turn around and follow me. I am already preparing to stop. The lights go on and I pull over. The officer asks me how I'm doing and then asks if I have any weapons. Yes, sir, I am a concealed carry permit holder and my weapon is located on my right hip. My wallet is in my back right pocket. The officer explains for his safety in mind he needs to disarm me for the stop. I understand and I unlock the vehicle. I explain that I'm running a 7TSALS holster, but from the angle, the second officer can't unholster it. Lead officer asks me to step out, and I do so slowly. Officer relieves me of my Glock and compliments my X300 or 00U I'm running on it. He also sees my military ID, and I tell him I'm with the National Guard. Lead officer points out my registration card is out of date, but he knows my registration is up to date. I'm going to read that again. Lead officer points out my registration card is out of date, but he knows my registration is up to date. All right. He goes back to run my license. I know he's got me on at least 2 infractions. I'm thinking of how to pay them. Officers return with my Glock in an evidence back, locked and cleared. Because you were cool with us and didn't give us grief, I'm just going to leave it at a verbal warning. Get that headlight fixed as soon as possible. I smile. Thank you, sir. I'm a black man wearing a hoodie and strapped, according to certain social movements. I shouldn't be alive right now because the police are allegedly out to kill minorities. Maybe, just maybe, that notion is bunk. Maybe if you treat police officers with respect, they will do the same to you. Police officers are people too, by far and large. Most are good people, and they are not out to get you. I'd like to thank those 2 officers and TPD in general for another professional contact. We talk so much about the bad apples and who shouldn't be wearing a badge. I'd like to spread the word about an example of men who earned their badges and exemplify what the badge stands for.
And that's his picture here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've already formulated opinions on this after reading just his post. I never read any articles about it.
Yeah.
I feel like he already kind of had it in with those cops anyway, so he is not, he can't debunk everyone else's experience just because of his. He's military. He was speaking with the cops, just made him already in. Any black guy in a hoodie that speaks like they're from an inner city area is nice every time that this guy has. Just because he's already just from a different group of people. He's military. And that automatically kind of just gets respect from cops.
Yeah. And also, like I was saying earlier, like it was everything went according to plan when they pulled them over. It wasn't like, you know, when somebody comes and when a cop pulls somebody over, and then they you know, instantly just get a bunch of it doesn't go as planned, and they just get so much resistance with the person, then it just escalates from there because the police officer gets mad, and then they're like get out of the fucking car now, because I'm gonna arrest you now because you're not making this easy for me. That's also a thing that I believe. Yeah.
I will say respect with a cop goes a long way. If you speak clearly and show an initial respect anyway, it usually makes your experience much smoother with them, especially if you don't have anything to worry about. You don't have drugs and weapons in your car that shouldn't be there. But every now and again, you still run into that douchebag cop that wants to be a dick the whole time to you, and I totally start losing respect for him at that point, and I show it, and
Yep.
I've never actually had a really rough experience with cops. I've just been arrested. I've just never resisted that arrest until they're at a very physical altercation. I have had quite a few run-ins, though.
Yeah.
They like to pull me over up in the park.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's all I got for the news. I guess we're gonna go into a next segment, which is the pit of darkness. From there, I'm gonna pass it over to Tyler. I thought somebody was behind you, man.
No,
But it was,
no, it's my
your
dog.
It looked like somebody was walking behind you. I was like, who the hell is that? All right.
All right. Let's
Go
do it.
ahead, Darkness.
Well, there is something, we talked about outer space stuff briefly, but I would like to discuss outer space.
Okay.
Specifically, all of outer space, right? Is that an ironic statement?
Kind of, yeah, maybe.
The thing is, we are a collection of planets, minus Pluto now. It's still a planet to me. You can go fuck yourself. It's just because the criteria that determines whether or not it's a planet didn't fit Pluto. That's why the scientific community.
Come on now.
But we're a collection of planets as defined by the scientific community for what a planet is, orbiting around our sun, a star, to the rest of the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And in just our small system, if you expand out, just imagine visually. I wish I had, like, I could pull up a picture of the galaxy, but I need, I wouldn't be able to really explain from that. Just kind of in your mind, zoom out and then see our entire solar system revolving around the supermassive black hole at the center of it all. And we're just the small little strip of stars in the Milky Way galaxy here. And a massive collection of stars and other, like, every star has a massive gravitational pull and also has a collection of planets and I guess I want to say land masses. It could just be rock, could be ice revolving around them, just around this one supermassive black hole. But when you look up at the night sky, that is what you're seeing. But beyond that, we're not the only supermassive black hole in the universe with a galaxy revolving around it. So if you think of the astronomical odds that we would have to face to not have another star with a collection of planets with at least one in the Goldilocks zone revolving around it in the entire universe, known and unknown to us, it stands to reason that there is definitely another planet out there with a moderate enough temperature to where organic life, no matter what its chemical proposition, whether carbon-based or silicone-based, maybe all new elements can exist there, to where organic life, no matter what its chemical proposition, could exist and not either burn up or freeze, or maybe they've adapted to where they can live in sub-zero temperatures. It stands to reason that it is mathematically highly improbable that there is not life out there.
I actually think there might be life in our solar system.
Oh, of course.
There's speculation about, just based on what we've seen here, living on Earth in environments so extreme, we thought life would be impossible even on a single cellular level. But there, things living and breeding and multiplying and doing what life does. And there's speculation that there could even be organisms living in the clouds on Jupiter and Saturn. is right for those conditions, creating energy from the gases that they're floating in. Is it out there? Probably not, but it's fun to think about. My favorite one to think about is Europa, the ice moon, the one that probably has thermal heating of some kind underneath that to keep liquid water underneath all that ice. The ice is cracking all the time, which is pretty solid evidence that there is liquid water underneath. And if there's liquid water, that means there's heat somewhere. And if there's heat somewhere, there could be life very similar to the life we see around thermal vents in the depths of our oceans.
On Europa, what actually generates the massive thermal energy that causes the liquid water to exist on the inside? What it is it's actually it's continental friction. It's the best way.
Jupiter pulling on it and the tidal friction.
Europa has an elliptical orbit that, when it goes around Jupiter, when it's at its closest, Jupiter's massive gravitational pull will squeeze Europa. And when it moves at its farthest distance in its elliptical orbit, it'll shift and warp outwards like this. And the squeezing and shifting of that planet due to the massive pull of Jupiter is actually generating heat within the core of the planet, which is the reason why. And they came to that conclusion because that there's liquid water, because on the outside it looks like ice, but they can actually see cracks, massive fissures that have streams of steam shooting out into space that they can actually see on their thermal sensors. It just looks like it looks like Old Faithful, but 10 times the size of the Empire State Building, blasting into space. And they actually have a lot of theories that there could be some sort of blind, extraterrestrial. Yeah.
Have you seen the movie Europa Report?
No, I have not.
I think it's on Netflix. You should check it out. It's a good watch. It's about a manned mission to Europa, and they find life, and it's pretty cool.
My topic I wanted to get into about outer space was travel, because the closest we've come to seeing, and not just pictures sent back from Mars and other planets. I mean, we've seen Jupiter's spot from probes we've sent into deep space, but what it is it's sustained travel. Because even our most technologically advanced forms of propulsion in space is hydrogen-based, and the probes themselves, they don't even depend on propulsion. The only reason they get out there is we've analyzed projected orbits so well that we can actually launch it into orbit and mathematically predict where it would be, 50 years from now. But I'm talking actually taking a craft with sensory equipment and sending it out of our galaxy and getting it to another galaxy, not 2,000 years from now, like it would most likely take, or longer, but doing it within 5 to 10 years, because a lot of people don't realize this. Light travels at over 800,000 miles per hour. One photon, that's a particle of light, can travel around the Earth 8 times in 1 second. It takes about like 6 hours for light to come from the sun to Earth. You take that and scale that out from Earth, from our sun, scale that out to a completely different solar system. We would have to develop a form of propulsion, and not propulsion in the traditional sense that there's something behind it causing some sort of force, creating inertia in a forward direction. Not like that. If you think back to something that seems completely fictional, Star Trek, the warp drive. They had to figure out a way to describe their ability to travel at that speed, so they just had a warp drive. But a lot of scientists, and there's a lot of you can get into some of Einstein's theories when you talk about it, but imagine taking a craft, and it's purely theoretical, but I'm pretty sure that the first form of travel is going to be an unmanned spacecraft, because then they can take this technology and test it out to its limits without risking anybody. Because the thing is, say you could put a person in a craft and move them at the speed of light. Well, that's well and good, but you would have to accelerate them gradually, of course, and stopping would have to be equally gradual, and you would not be able to turn or do anything in the process. Otherwise, your whole body would just, your molecules would rip apart, and you would just turn to just, you'd just explode. The entire spacecraft would rupture. It sounds ridiculous, but E equals mc squared, energy times mass equals the speed of light. If you could take a cockroach and move it at the speed of light, according to that equation, that cockroach would turn into energy. And the amount of inertia that a human can take is not that much. So the technology would have to be tested in an unmanned spacecraft. Imagine a drive that could somehow warp time and space, creating a collapsing space of time in front of the craft and an expanding space of time behind the craft, generating a theoretically unlimited amount of propulsion that you can regulate simply by regulating the amount of warp in front of and behind the craft. With that, you would also have to take into account physics themselves as we know it, because in outer space, like the normal, like NASA's craft, it can orbit around Earth at like 30,000 miles per hour. Space debris in outer space is a very big deal. If you were to orbit around space at 30,000 miles per hour and bump into a piece of debris the size of a BB, it would be the equivalent of a BB hitting that object at 30,000 miles per hour. If the spaceship was to collide with a particle the size of a BB, it'd be the equivalent of a bullet with 10 times the inertia hitting the outer surface. Now take an object and move it at the speed of light, over 800,000 miles per hour. If you collided with a single atom, the entire spaceship would explode in a colossal eruption, and there would be nothing left of you but just microscopic particles because of the sheer energy transfer that would occur from that collision. So I think that is what poses the biggest problem with interstellar space travel from one galaxy to another. We could develop massive propulsion, but there's no way to control inertia. There's people inside, so there's no inertia dampers that would anyway hamper the effects of the outside world inflicting inertia on that craft. If you're traveling at 200,000 miles per hour and you turn slightly to the left, you're just going to rip apart the craft and you inside of it.
What about instant transmission?
That is actually very interesting. Are you guys aware of quantum entanglement? You take two particles that I don't really know how to explain it, but it's two atoms that share particles. You take them and you can move them 100 miles apart. You do one thing to one atom, that other particle 100 miles apart is instantly affected by it.
Yeah, faster than the speed of light.
Anyone who's played Mass Effect knows what I'm talking about. Quantum entanglement is actually a very real possibility.
I think they just made a big breakthrough in proving part of it too recently.
They have proven quantum entanglement, but they so far they haven't been able to test its limits at a great distance. But they have moved them very far apart and proven that they do respond to one another. And we've actually been successful in teleportation for quite some time, but what it is they can't teleport material objects. They can only teleport beams of light. So I think the first interstellar space travel is not going to be physically moving through space and time in outer space, because in the world that we live in this universe, in this reality, physics are a very big deal. So unless some sort of very, very advanced force field technology is developed along with it, we won't be able to travel at anywhere near the speeds that we would need. If you were to jump on a spaceship right now and travel at 30,000 miles per hour, you would die at 100 years old before you reach Pluto. There is not enough time in the span of your entire lifetime to drive from here in a straight line and make it to Pluto.
Yeah, that's why I just want to look at it through a telescope and instant transmission myself there.
Yeah, that's why the scientists were like, "Fuck Pluto. Pluto's a bitch.
Too far away.
Pluto's not a planet anymore. It's too far."
No one likes a bitch who plays hard to get. All right, but that concludes my Pit of Darkness segment. I just hope that one day science can take us where we really want to go.
All right, man. That's interesting, definitely. So far, I've really enjoyed this podcast. It's been going out pretty much perfectly here. I want to talk about games, but I don't really have much about games. As always, I've just been too busy trying to get the news stories here. Is there anything you would like to talk about games, Thomas or Darkness here?
I want to know what's the deal with Pokken Tournament. What's the news on it?
On what?
Pokken Tournament. The new Pokemon fighting game.
I haven't heard much about it at all, so I don't even know.
Yeah, me either. My buddy friggin' Blake, he knows. I heard it was like supposed to only be like released in Japan or something, but now it's getting released over here.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That whole Nintendo thing is kind of weird. Nintendo's been weird lately with all their.
It's like between like it's like Tekken or something.
Yeah.
I had to go take a leak real quick. Sorry.
But I think the game that everybody's been talking about lately is Fallout 4, just because it's coming out so soon. There's been some leaked footage out on the internet, and they were talking about all the different perks, new perks, and the way weapons take damage now. It's the damage is a little bit different, but all in all, I saw the video, and it just looks like a Fallout 4 game, but just with way better graphics, and it just looks really, really cool.
I've never played any of the Fallouts, I'll be honest.
They're really good, especially Fallout 3. They're really good games, for sure.
You never played any of the Fallout games?
I have not.
Well, look, listen. You know what a vagina feels like?
I do.
Give it grips and thumbsticks.
Word.
That's Fallout.
Too bad you can't vat smoke when you're having sex. I target the clitoris. Critical hit. Do we not always do that when we VATS mode? We just click, click, click on the head, and we just go tick, 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 tick. Just unleash on the face. It doesn't matter if it's a flamethrower or a minigun or a rocket launcher. You aim at the head.
Yep. Even though it says like 10% hit rate, you still do it.
You're telling me there's a chance. That's all that matters. I've said 1% before, and I actually got it I just blew his head off with a sniper rifle from way back.
Yeah.
I said, fuck it, I got time to run, and sure enough, I just blew his head off.
I probably should play at least one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, play Fallout 3.
Yeah.
Fallout 3.
You have
I only
PS3?
played one of the Far Cry. Yeah, I got PS3. I only played one Far Cry, and that was the third one, and I loved that game. That game was fun.
Far Cry 3 was good. Far Cry 4 was basically Far Cry 3, but with new characters and environments.
You live in Georgia, right?
And a few more things. Yeah. I live up here by Lake Lanier.
I live in Dallas.
I don't know where that is. I'm not really from Georgia.
Oh, you're not from Georgia. You got ourselves an illegal alien.
I was born and raised in New York.
Oh,
2006.
You and your iced coffee. Why don't you just take yourself a taxi back up there? That's how you folks get around. That brings me to an important
I
topic,
actually
Chris.
did move back. I moved back, and then the economy tanked, and I had to move back in with my folks.
So, Chris, how do you feel about border control?
Border control. I think they need to build. I think we need to build a huge wall.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, look
like really.
How many illegals are in China?
Yeah,
they got a wall.
We should just like start like leaving America and breaking into Mexico, and just like start building shit over there.
Yeah, we need to put up walls around each state, and all the state lines are just walls, and everybody has to go through the checkpoints.
Like there'll be Georgians,
every single state.
Alabamians. There's gonna be North Dakotians, Washington D.C.ians.
All off Alabama and don't let anyone in or out.
Half my family's in Fort Payne, Alabama. I am from Georgia. I have lived here my entire life. The farthest north any of my family members are in Kentucky.
I've got family members further south. I've got family members that are almost in Mexico. San Antonio, Texas. And the furthest north would be New Hampshire, I believe. Unless there's family I don't know of that are like Eskimos.
I don't care about geography. I think no matter where I live, I'm going to immediately point out everything that's stupid about it, so it's just not going to matter where I'm at. I've been up north, and it pissed me off up there. I was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and as far as I'm concerned, everybody in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is a piece of shit. Everybody there's a piece of shit. They're all...
No, you're right. You're right. Pretty much anybody who lives in any city is a piece of shit. Atlanta's not as bad, but there's definitely a lot of pieces of shit.
Everyone in Atlanta's a piece of shit. I've done routes in there. I did a commercial route in there where I drove in there because I drove a garbage truck for a while. I can't say what company, but I drove commercially in Atlanta, and I mean I just see the way people dress in there, and I'm like the dudes look like lesbians, women all look like hookers, or just look like they just have parents that are just like, yeah, suck dicks, that's cool. I don't understand it. Like every single one of them, I just think like, I wish that you were my daughter, just so I could whoop the shit out of you. I don't understand it. And you got women like, and they deliberately like they flex their butt cheeks and walk by shaking them when we jump off to like, you know, like when we stop at a stop and get out to handle what we're doing. Walk around in them damn yoga pants. You do not go jogging in yoga pants and then look at me funny when I stare at your ass. You know what you're doing. You're wearing yoga pants. What are you, Peter Pan?
Yeah. What if they are Peter Pan?
Well, I'm thinking happy thoughts.
Peter Pan is very often played by women.
I'll take her to Never Never Land. Show her my Tinkerbell. I call him Captain Hook. All right, Chris, take us into the twilight. Sky Captain Commander, sir.
That's all I have, man. I think that's a pretty good podcast. I think we can bring it to a close. But yes, we hit some really good topics today, especially on death and how It affects everybody, even split decisions of police officers because they're faced with death every single day. And then, yeah, space, all that stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and close this podcast here and say thank you guys from YouTube for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. All that good stuff. And, of course, we need more interactions with you guys. I know we were just starting out. This is our third podcast, and it's going to take a while for it to catch on, but I'm definitely getting more views. I finally hit 300 subscribers on YouTube, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot to me since I've only had like 200 or so for the longest time. But again, thank you guys. We'll see you again very soon with the Philosopher's Stone cast. And next episode we'll have something pretty interesting for you guys.
Rufio! 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 Rufio!
We'll see you guys later. Bye.